Let's talk about one of the biggest headaches in the data world. You know what I'm talking about. Just pure chaos? Well, today we're going to dive into a tool called Apache Airflow. It's designed to take all that complexity, all that chaos, and bring some serious order to your data workflows. I mean, just think about it for a second. Your data is coming in from everywhere, right? APIs, databases, all these different services. You've got scripts pulling it, scripts cleaning it, scripts analyzing it. But how do you make sure all those little pieces actually work together every single time without you having to manually check on them?
Because for a lot of us, this is the reality. It's this super stressful manual cycle. You run a script, then you have to go dig through the logs to see if it worked. Oh, it failed? Okay, now you got to fix the bug, and then you have to rerun the entire thing from the start and just cross your fingers and hope it works this time. This isn't just a waste of time, it's a terrible way to handle important data.
So how do we get out of that loop? Well, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk a bit more about that data chaos. Then, we'll see how Airflow helps us orchestrate it. We're going to break down its most important concept, the DAG. We'll even build a cool example with a rocket pipeline. Then, we'll see how it handles things when they go wrong. And finally, where it fits into the whole data stack.
Yeah, that manual process, that's really the core of the problem. It's a total black box. What we really need is a smarter way to manage all these scripts.
And that solution, my friends, is called workflow orchestration. It's all about defining, scheduling, and keeping an eye on our workflows, but doing it all as code. Think of it like you're hiring a conductor for your data orchestra.
And a great way to think about Apache Airflow is to imagine it's the master chef in your data kitchen. Now, Airflow isn't cooking the food itself. Your scripts are still doing that. But Airflow has the master recipe. It makes sure every step happens in exactly the right order at exactly the right time.
And that master recipe in Airflow has a special name. It's called a DAG, which stands for Directed Acyclic Graph. I know, that sounds super technical and intimidating. But trust me, the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It's just a blueprint for your entire workflow, showing every single task and how it's connected to everything else.
So let's actually break that name down. Let's pull the jargon apart, because each word, directed, acyclic, and graph, tells us something really important about how Airflow thinks. Directed is easy. It just means your pipeline is a one-way street. Task A runs before task B, which runs before task C. The flow is predictable. Acyclic means there are no loops or roundabouts. You can't have a situation where task C depends on task A, creating an endless circle. This is so important because it prevents your workflow from getting stuck in an infinite loop. It guarantees a start and a finish.
Okay, so what are the actual pieces? Well, you have the DAG, which is the whole recipe. Each step in that recipe is a task. The specific action you take, like running a Python script, is the operator. And finally, the schedule is just telling Airflow when to start cooking, say every day at midnight.
All right, that's enough theory. Let's make this concrete and see it in action. We're going to build a simple but totally realistic data pipeline to download pictures of upcoming rocket launches. How cool is that?
So our pipeline is going to have 3 simple steps. First, we have a task to hit an API and get the data on rocket launches. Then a second task, which depends on the first one finishing, will download the actual images. And finally, once all the pictures are downloaded, a third task will fire off a notification saying, hey, the job's done.
And here is what that looks like inside the Airflow user interface. You get this beautiful, clean graph of your pipeline. See how all the tasks are outlined in green? That's your instant visual confirmation that everything ran perfectly. This is the power of visibility. No more guessing.
But let's be real. In the real world, things break. APIs go down, networks get flaky, stuff happens. And this is where a tool like Airflow really earns its keep.
So what happens when a task fails? Boom! Airflow's UI tells you immediately. That big red box around get_pictures is impossible to miss. And look at the notify task. It's orange, which means it was skipped because its upstream task failed. You've just found the exact point of failure without digging through a single log file. But what if that failure wasn't a real bug? What if it was just a temporary network hiccup that fixed itself a second later? Do you really want to get woken up at 3 a.m. for something like that? Probably not.
Well, no problem. Well, that's where automatic retries come in. In Airflow, you can just tell a task, hey, if you fail, try again a couple of times before you give up. This one simple feature makes your pipeline so much more resilient and robust, handling those little glitches for you.
So as you start building your own DAGs, there are 2 golden rules to remember. First is atomicity. Make each task do one thing and only one thing. Don't mix downloading and transforming in the same task. Keep them separate. It makes debugging way easier. And second is idempotency. This just means your task should be safe to rerun. If you run it 5 times, you should get the same results as running it once. This is absolutely critical for retries to work safely.
Okay, so where does Airflow fit into the bigger picture of your data tools? It doesn't live on an island. It's more like the central nervous system, or maybe a spider in the middle of a web connecting everything else.
See, Airflow isn't trying to replace a tool like Apache Spark. Instead, it's the conductor that tells Spark when to run its big data processing job. It doesn't store data itself. It tells your data warehouse when a new batch of data is ready to be loaded. And it works with all the major cloud providers, so you can manage jobs across AWS, GCP, you name it, all from one place. This quote just nails it perfectly. Airflow is the spider in the web. It doesn't build the web itself, but it sits in the center, feeling every vibration, managing every connection, and making sure the entire thing works together as one.
So there you have it. We've gone from the pure chaos of manual scripts to the organized clarity of a well-orchestrated pipeline. We've seen how to define our workflows, see how they're doing, and even make them tougher. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build first?